So Satya means truth. Truth in thought, word, and deed. Not always the easiest thing to do, for sure. We were doing this same kind of panel in one of my workshops in Czech Republic, in Prague. And my friend who had truth, Satya, started giving his little talk on it. I don't know if you were there. And a man raised his hand and he was quite agitated and he said, "You cannot always tell the truth." And we discussed this for, I would say, 45 minutes. And the more all of us tried to explain why truth is important, the more this man got really quite upset. And finally we had to call it quits. And I spoke with him later. What I found out was he was from Romania. And in Romania during the communist time, if someone in a village spoke the truth, the whole village was often punished with no food. So truth is kind of an interesting subject. I think if we listen to what the Dharmapada, and I'm going to read it directly from them. This is a Buddhist teaching. It may give us a little insight into really how do we speak or how do we use the truth in our lives. So, first there's thought. The thought manifests as the word. The word manifests as the deed. The deed develops into habit. Habit hardens into character. So watch the thought in its way with care, and let it spring from love, born out of concern for all beings. As the shadow follows the body, as we think, so we become. So, in other words, we're shaped by our thoughts. If we have a bad thought or you have to say the truth to someone that's going to hurt them. If you stop at the thought and turn your feelings into love and compassion for this person, and then you speak the truth, it will come across in a way that is a generous offering to them instead of as an attack. For me, I was raised by a family that told us we always had to tell the truth as long as I can remember. So this has been always something, I just regularly did it, no matter what effect it would have on the person I was telling. And of course, I ended up, what I would use the word, blowing them away quite often, because they did not receive it in kindness very often. So I started to really wonder, I couldn't control my mouth. I would just say whatever was in my mind. And this really became glaringly obvious to me on Tommy Joyce's first visit to the States. I had not bought toe rings when I was in India, but I thought they were so beautiful. I saw Amma, she had come, and it was actually his second visit because that was when she was there. And I looked down at her toe rings, and I knew if I said to her they were beautiful, she would take them off her feet and give them to me. And I kept saying to myself, don't say it. She's here for 2 months. She's going to be without her toe rings. Don't say it, don't say it. As I'm saying this to myself, I said, oh, Amma, I love your toe rings. Sure enough, she took them off her feet, gave them to me. And on one level, it's a treasure that I have of hers. But on another, it was the teaching that I received in that moment. And after that, I started to really pay attention to exactly how I was going to express my thoughts before I would say them. So that, for me, was a crowning moment, and I thank her for giving me this wonderful teaching. So, when we go into this subject, there's another aspect to it that I think is maybe more appropriate for us in the world today. And it's something Gandhi started his whole movement. He was, as you know, the leader of the nonviolent movement in India that brought independence to them. And he coined a term, Satyagraha, which is firmness in truth. And it's not, he said that he wasn't coming from a place of Thoreau, who was nonviolent, no action. He actually believed in action, but nonviolent action. And action that would change places, countries. He did not think that you should create a war, a violent situation, and just massacre your opponent. He believed that we should change the mindset of our opponents. And that's what he was teaching. So he performed many acts of disobedience, civil disobedience. Martin Luther King followed the example of Gandhi. So it was out of love and compassion for the opponent, because when we face an opponent, they believe just as strongly as we do in their cause. So just to win a war and not change the consciousness of people, and the war can be just a little discussion between two people, anything where you have an opponent and you have a different view. So the idea being that you use the thoughts to change the person. So he would not force his opinion on anyone. He used patience, and he would continually go at the same subject, and then hopefully his opponents would change. And I know from reading, many of the British who were the opponent at that time started to see differently, same in the civil rights movement in America, by the example of the people who believed so strongly in the truth, but weren't willing to take a violent course to make their side come true. I mean, you have Rosa Parks from the American movement doing civil disobedience. I think in our lives this is much more applicable than perhaps some of the other ideas of truth-taking.